Paragraph 6. Which of the following is true of the Spanish? Which of the Mayans would have survived had they not appeared? Is that right? Had they not appeared. What does that mean? That means if they had not appeared. Do you understand? Is that right? According to paragraph 6, the last one, right? If you read this passage, the Mayans were gradually collapsing. So even if the Spanish had not arrived, they would have disappeared. So that's not the answer. That's not right. They helped the Mayans to overcome certain diseases. They didn't help, right? They spread the disease, so B is not the answer. They contributed, they helped. Contribute means to help something become successful. Contributed to the disappearance of Mayan civilization. This is right? Even though they were gradually collapsing, the Spanish came and they decimated the remaining population. So C is the answer. They first visited Mayan culture when it was at its peak. No, right? When they came, approximately 90% of the population was already disappeared. So it was not at its peak when they arrived. Peak is the top of the mountain, or the time when something is at its strongest. Look at the four squares that indicate where the following sentence could be added to the passage. There is evidence in the historical records that farmers engaged in rebellions in various provinces. What is a rebellion? It's violent, organized actions of a large group of people intending to change the political system of their country. Okay? In various provinces are parts of a country where it has its own administration. So it has what? Engaged in rebellions. So we need to look for that. Where is the expression relating to rebellion here? Even civil warfare among the peasantry broke out. This is rebellion, right? So it's best when it comes after this sentence. So the second square is the most adequate. All right. Can you see this well? This is, I'm very sorry, but there's a lot of wording in this question. So an introductory sentence for a brief summary of the passages provided below. Complete the summary by selecting the three answer choices that express the most important ideas of the passage. Let's look at the given sentence. Mayan civilization had its roots in agriculture, yet slowly became a series of independent kingdoms. However, due to inefficient farming practices and natural disasters, the Mayans slowly disappeared as a viable civilization. Viable means working well, all right? So which sentences shall we add? 1. Many of the construction projects finished by the Mayans have managed to survive even up to the present day. This is right, right? But this is not very important. Number 2. It took several hundred years for the Mayans to disappear since no singular event was responsible for their downfall. This is very important, so we were going to choose 2. The Spaniards appeared in the 16th century, but they only dealt with the Mayans when they were extremely weak. Right, right? Because 90% was already gone. So 3 is right. And it's important too. So we're going to look for, we're going to consider number 3. Number 4, the Mayans were forced to cut down much of the jungle to use as farmland when their crops began to fail. Were they forced to cut down the jungle? They cut down the jungle, but because of what? Thanks to the growing population, suitable farmland grew scarce, and perhaps even civil warfare broke out. Swaths of jungle were cut down to make more farmland. So why was it? Because the farmland grew scarce. Do you understand? So Mayans were forced to cut down? That's a question. And when their crops began to fail, it's because there were not enough suitable farmland. So 4 is not very clear. The Mayans were constantly at war with one another, but no one army was able to defeat all of the others. This is very important, and this is right, right? So maybe we're going to pick 5. The early Mayans farmed the land and only later began to construct cities with places and temples. They first started with farming, and then they moved into a sophisticated society. So 6 is right. So we can choose it, and it's important too. So what are we gonna choose? 2, 3, 5, 6, right? And what are we gonna exclude? Maybe 3 is the least important of the 4, so we're gonna pick 2, 5, and 6. But the answer sheet here says that the answer is 2, 4, and 6. So they excluded number 3, and they excluded number 5 too. But I don't see why 5. They excluded 5. Not one king could unite the Mayan civilization. This idea is very important, but the answer sheet excluded it. I don't see why. But as I have told you, the TOEFL test itself is very complicated, and the writers of these textbooks have to make complex questions too. It's not very easy to do that. But if you take the actual TOEFL test, the questions and the options would be much clearer than this, so you don't have to worry about that. We're just, it is good for us only by practicing to think with these given questions and options in the textbook, so you don't have to worry about that part, okay? So we covered everything. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.